Okay, woohoo! Welcome to episode 16 of the Georgie and Patty Show. Even technical difficulties will not stop us. Here we are.
No rain,
Yay!
no sleet, no snow, none of that stuff.
That's right. We're here, making it happen every day. Monday to Friday. It's not go crazy. We're here today. Yeah, welcome to our show today. Today's a really awesome topic for us. I think we're both pretty passionate about the U-shaped business. So creating a business that really supports the life that you want, the life that you have, who you are. We both can rant a little bit about this one. So we're really, really, really excited that you are here and that you have questions. Oh, look, and someone bought your book yesterday. Woohoo! It's an amazing book. Everyone should buy it, in my opinion. Yeah, so we're going to dive right into this today. I will actually share a little bit first before we dive in, because I just changed my mind. Yeah, the U-shaped business book, or the U-shaped book, is totally awesome. It is totally awesome. I totally agree. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who is going to be on our show April 30th. His name is Tyrell Mara. And if you remember yesterday when I was talking about the person that I wanted for my first kind of in-person connected conversation, and I wanted to be cool and wasn't, it was with Tyrell. So Tyrell will be joining us on April 30th. And we were talking yesterday about, what we were doing and what's up right now and that kind of stuff. And I love his outlook on life. Like he is really, really passionate about his life's work and helping people kind of jump into the deep end of life and stay there and achieve the things that they want and be able to do their life's work in the world. And he has this thing where he really looks at, what's this going to look like 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road? What's this kind of pilgrimage that I'm on? And am I willing to be on it? Is it really the things that I want to do? And then how do I incorporate that with all the other areas of my life? So it was kind of a very timely conversation because he is someone who absolutely crafts all the areas of his life in a way that's very intentional to the things that matter to him and what he wants to do in the world. So really, really excited, to have him on our show. And it was timely for this conversation. So April 30th, he will be our guest. Mark it. You definitely want to be here and ask him questions because he's one of the most amazing human beings I have ever met in my entire life. So be here for that. And our quote of the day is, so to create the life you want to live, you must be willing to do the things that scare you again and again and again. And that's by Vinny Rastogi, who I have no idea who that is. And when I was thinking about this and I was reading this quote, I was thinking, often the things that scare us the most are really those inner things that we have, putting ourself out there, sharing our own voice, our own opinion. Sometimes those can be the scariest things as we start to move forward. And those are really the things that we have to do again and again and again as we are creating this U-shaped business. Those are the things, we've said this a million times, that make us unique, that help us stand out. And often those are the things that we go, I'm not sure I can do that. So I thought that was very fitting as we move into this U-shaped business day. So over to my partner.
All right. As I find the correct buttons. Share.
Don't make me tell another joke because we all know I only have one.
All right. No jokes. No jokes. You'll have to say things. So it's our topic today is, it really is, the U-shaped business. It's about building a business that fits you. And there are lots of, this is permission slip week. There are lots of them, lots yesterday, lots today. There'll be more on Friday. To start us off, permission to do things your own way. This is kind of the essence of a U-shaped business. When we get into business for ourselves, I know this is true of me, maybe it's true for you too, but a big piece of that is wanting freedom. there's a quote somewhere that says, that entrepreneurs are the only people who will work twice as much for half as much, twice as many hours for half as much money to avoid working for somebody else. It's about freedom. It's about the ability to make our own decisions, to do things our way, to have the freedom to do what we want to do. And what we've noticed in working with clients over the years is a lot of times people don't recognize the freedoms that they have. As much as we have those freedoms, a lot of us fall back into kind of habits of doing things the way other people do them, of kind of following along with what other people are doing, find ourselves doing some stuff that we think we should do, rather than what we really want to do. And as much as we have this freedom, we don't always exercise it. So that's our kind of the overarching focus of today's session, is about embracing that freedom, kind of uncovering some of the places where you have this freedom so that you can decide what it is that's truly going to fit you and your life. And of course, full permission to exercise that and to do things your way. So that's where we're starting. And I'll let my partner jump in right here.
Because often I think as we're moving into entrepreneurship and we're starting to create our own business and those kinds of things, I think it's really important to look at kind of what are the roles that you're currently playing in your life. Like one of them will be business owner. One of them you may be a mom, you may be a wife, you may volunteer at different things. What are all the different roles that you're currently playing in your life, and how is this business going to fit into that and support those different areas? If you're a mom with a 2-year-old, the amount of time and the way you structure your business will be different from someone who is, say, has no children at home, or they're already grown, right? Or if a child is a teenager or in their 20s or something like that, right? Your roles kind of shift as you move through the life of your business. So I think these things are really important to look at when you're structuring your business, because often we look at people and we want to model our business after someone else. And our situation may be completely different. And part of that are the roles that we currently have. Right now, you may be noticing that I'm homeschooling my kids at the same time. Maybe I have to shift right now kind of how I'm doing business, because that role as a mother or as a wife is really important to me. The role as a caregiver, I need to make sure that that's one of the really important things in my life. So how do I structure other things to fit with that? I often like to think of, like, I kind of have buckets in my life. What are my buckets of things that really, really matter to me, right? So my family, which is my kids and my mom and my dad and my sister and those kinds of things, those kind of relationships, really, really important to me. My health, really, really important to me. So I want to make sure I have time for doing my workouts, doing my grocery shopping, cooking my food, those kinds of things, super important. My business, really, really important to me. That's also the bucket. I love my work, like Tyrell says, right? This is my life's work. So super, super important. And then I have that area that you could call it, like, spirituality, personal development, that stuff where I'm really nurturing my mind, my soul, those kinds of things, which is, getting outside, being by myself, reading, meditating, all that stuff. All of those things are really important to me. So everything I do, I want to make sure it fits in one of those 4 buckets. And how do I kind of balance those buckets in a way that works for me? Lots of really great advice out there, but I have to take that advice in and go, how does it fit into my buckets in my life with my roles, so that it works, so that I can create the life that I really, really, really want. And I believe it's totally possible, that we absolutely can do that. But, we talk about this a ton too, right? It's a system. There's lots of pieces that come into this thing. It's not just, oh, here's my business silo, I'm just going to look at that, without looking at all the other areas that this business affects in our lives. Super important. And then the other piece of that are your values, and I believe we kind of have 2 kinds of values. So we have our own, what I would call self-actualized values, which are the values that are just important to us. And then we have these kind of self-transcending values, which are values that kind of go out and affect the kind of the world at large and the people around us. So we want to look at those things too. What are the things that I really stand for that really mean something to me? And do I construct my business in a way that fits that? Does my messaging, is it in alignment with that? Is how I show up in alignment with all of those values in my business? Because when you use your values as a filter for how you move forward, how you do the things in your life, especially your business, more than likely you're not going to go wrong. And I think this is where those things come up sometimes too, where it's like, well, someone said, I can't say that. If that's something you really believe and that's what you actually stand for, oh yeah, you can say it. Absolutely, you can. One of the things that for me, like I really believe in, um, being nice to people, and doing things in the kindest way possible. And I was in this course once, and I think I've probably talked about this before too, where they say, do you afflict the comforted or comfort the afflicted? I'm going to comfort all day long. I know that's going to be my go-to. I am not going to be the person that is the kind of throat punchy sort of, more move towards pain, or I'm not going to be the person that tells you to put the rubber band on your wrist and snap it to remind you to stop doing things, because that's who I am. If those types of things work for you, great, amazing, and awesome. But I know if I try to build my business and how I do things that way, it's not going to work for me. I'm not going to do it very long because I'm not going to feel good just because of the values I have for me. And again, it's not a right or wrong thing. It's just really getting clear about, I know where my sticking points are and the things that if I go against them, they just don't work for me, and being really true to that, even when the advice out there may say something differently. And we talk about this a lot with, how we do our sales, how we have conversations with people. Do I, if the kind of funnels I might build, all of those kinds of things. But I think when you're looking at all these components of your business, really know who you are and where your lines are. And it makes it so much nicer as you continue to move forward and build this business. And then, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say um, that when this comes to sales and marketing, if you find yourself in this position where I've had clients who've told me that they are unable to execute the advice that they've been given, and it's because it goes against their values. If you have a high value for honesty, it can be really difficult to embrace advice that says fake it until you make it, or to kind of misrepresent what you're doing, even in a subtle way. It doesn't feel, you run into this conflict where you're like, I can't say that because it's dishonest. And there was a discussion I listened to a while back, which I thought was really brilliant. Somebody had asked another business advisor, why is it that some people are able to lie and to use hype and dishonesty in their marketing? Like, how can they do that? How can they sleep at night conducting business that way? And the response was just absolutely brilliant. They value making money above being honest. That's why. It doesn't bother them. Of course they can sleep at night. They're happy as clams because they're making money, and that's more important to them than being honest. Being honest might not even be one of their values, right? And it's like, so then the trick for people who are honest, it's kind of like, do you have to bump up the value of making money a little bit? Not to be dishonest in your approach, but maybe not seeing making money as a bad thing, kind of um, perspective. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And when you dive into your values, you do realize if, money or financial security or any of those things doesn't even make the list, you might want to look at that too. It might be also another reason why sales aren't coming in. It's like, oh, that's interesting. And it's just information, right? It's just noticing that, oh, that didn't show up. Wonder what that's about. And getting curious.
And we will contend that you can market and sell effectively without violating your values and in fact using your values to propel you.
100,000,000%. Yeah, I think that's like almost it's a standard feature of the purpose-driven entrepreneur, right? Is that everything you do is in alignment with your values and what you believe and what you stand for. Yeah. And I think this also leads us to the money side of business and being really clear about where you are right now with what you're doing and how your life is evolving. What are the financial goals that you have for your business? Because knowing what those are also shapes the business model that you want to create, the hours you're going to need to put in, all of those kinds of things. And your financial number is your financial number. It can be $1,000 a month that you need to bring in. It can be $3,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, whatever it is to you. The only correct number is your correct number. And that can change and evolve as your life changes and evolves, as those roles evolve that you have in your life, right? As kids grow and change, as your life happens to happen, you may want some new things. You may need some different things, whatever it is, but that financial number is your number. And I think often we get really sucked into these, $1 million lifestyles and 7 figures and all those kinds of things. And that may not be yours. 6 figures may not be what you're looking for in your business. And that's completely okay. And I think it goes along exactly. This is your permission slip that your financial goals are absolutely fine for you. And knowing it, though, is really important as you start to construct your business and figure out what this U-shaped business looks like for you right now. And it goes back to the other slips, right? You can change your mind. We've said this to you before, but it's knowing where you are now so that it's congruent and relevant to you, and that you are absolutely, totally fine with your number. It doesn't matter to anybody else or what anybody else does. So that's kind of my rant, is that you can build this business your way, in a way that fits you, to create the life that you really, 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 really want with where you are now. It's the combination, it's the system of all the things that matter to you. And let's just build this so that it supports those.
Excellent. See, Georgie's given us like this big picture perspective of how your business fits into your life as a whole, and these overarching guidelines for decision making and how you're going to proceed. And I'm going to focus in a little bit as to the actual business that you are creating, and a question that I don't think enough people want or ask of themselves. And that is, when you look at your business, what job do you want? What do you want to do in your business? And I'm just going to give you a little bit of perspective here of the 5 things that have to happen in your business, okay? It's not like you get to only choose one of these things. For those of us who choose self-employment, we are wearing 5 hats, okay? Now I'm putting these all on an equal line in no particular order, because one of the things that our society in general does is gives a hierarchy to these things and assigns more value to others, to some roles than others. And this is your business, it's U-shaped. Let's consider these things to all be equal in importance, okay? Thing number 1, let's look at like administrative stuff that has to be done, keeping records, keeping files, keeping things organized, responding to emails, doing that kind of administrative day-to-day things that need to be done. That's one of the roles in your job, like in your business. There is a management role of making sure that the things are getting done. This is This is about creating work schedules, setting priorities, figuring out what needs to happen and who's going to do it and by when. This is the planning stuff, the organizing, the making sure that people execute what needs to be executed and that the work gets done. If you are self-employed, this is self-management. You need to kind of organize yourself and get yourself to do the stuff that needs to be done by the time it needs to get done. Management is a role in your business. Sales and marketing is a role in your business. If nobody's making it rain, there's no money coming in. So sales and marketing is important. This is getting yourself in front of your future clients and doing all of the things necessary to lead them along to decide to work with you or not. So sales and marketing, super important. It's one of the roles. Uh, Delivering the service that you're offering, doing the actual work. If you're a coach, it's coaching. If it's a freelancer, you're doing whatever the freelance service is. You're working with your clients. You're delivering the thing that you sell. Doing that actual work. And then there's this leadership, visionary, creating the overarching picture of what you're doing and where you want to go, setting a direction, taking into account things like purpose and values and things like that. And as you look at this list here of 5 areas that you need to pay attention to, I'm thinking there's a very good possibility that some of these stand out as, oh yeah, I like that one. And other ones stand out as, we have our preferences. And if you've spent any time at all studying things like personality typing and assessments, Strengths Finder, something like that, we are suited for some of these jobs over others. Um, the visionary leader role is very big picture, whereas the administration is more of a detail oriented kind of a thing. Um, Sales and marketing is more of an outgoing, putting yourself out there thing. Managing is more of a human interaction thing. It's like they all have different attributes to them, and it's natural to choose some over others. Uh, but here's a question for you to consider. In an ideal world where all of these things are valued equally and are seen as equal and paid as equal, what's your preference? Where would you, in an ideal world, like to focus most of your time? Okay. This is a really important question to answer because we'll talk about this more on Friday when we talk about making decisions. But there's 2 kind of trains of thought um, when it comes to developing your own business. And one is to consider self-employment. Now, if what you enjoy doing more than anything else is the work that you do with clients, the service that you actually perform, this a self-employment kind of model where it's you doing a thing for your clients is good choice. Because if you want to build a real business, that your role is going to be manager primarily. uh, when we get this advice about scaling and building 7-figure businesses, one of the things that they don't always make clear is that that is not a self-employed business. That is a business with a team. Even if those team happen to be outsourcers, even if those are outsourced people, even if that team is computerized robots that do the work for you, the scaling a business, beyond yourself, it becomes about organizing people and tasks and making sure stuff gets done. That's really the primary. That's the primary job. There's a real focus on the management, and there's a real focus on sales and marketing. And when you look at highly successful celebrity coaches, what you will notice is they don't do a lot of coaching. They have a team. You might not know who they are. They might not talk about it, especially if one individual's name is on the business, but they have a team. running things, and somebody has to manage that team. And especially in those celebrity-led models, they're doing a lot of sales and marketing. That's really what they're doing, is they're selling and they're marketing, they're managing people, and in a lot of cases they're hiring coaches to do the coaching if there's any coaching really involved. But it's a different business model, and a good question to ask yourself and to get really honest is, what do you want to do and what are you capable of doing? Do you have the skills to do that? A lot of times we get this idea, oh, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to hire a bunch of people, and I'm going to hire a team, and I'm going to grow it really big, but we don't actually have project management skills or people management skills, which make it a little bit challenging, or we simply don't like that kind of work. This is a realization I had a few years ago. It's I am a lone wolf. I am a self-employed uh, person. I like doing, I like doing the work for my clients, and it, like, a weird distinction for me to make is I really like teaching people about marketing. I like teaching people about sales. I see that as my role. I'm a teacher. I'm a consultant and an advisor, sometimes a coach. These are the things that I do. This is a service delivery thing. I don't love sales and marketing. I don't love doing it for me. I love teaching about it. I'm firmly in this service delivery place. I don't like managing people, and the idea of growing um, beyond me and my fellow lone wolf partner here is it's not overly exciting, because I don't want to be a manager, right? That's a decision I made for you. Or it's a decision I made for you. That is a decision I made for me. You can make a decision for you. And the reason I being kind of uh, pushing on this point of considering these things all as equal is, in our society we have this idea that CEOs and big leaders, visionary people or managers of big organizations should be paid an enormous amount of money and be valued, worth thousands of times what the people on the ground are actually doing. And if you really look at a large business, it works because of the frontline people. And this is something that we are really aware of right now, that our essential workers tend to be low paid and undervalued. Um, and sometimes this kind of cultural perspective seeps to um, into our brains when we're deciding what we want. So I invite you to think about these things as all being equal when you make this decision, and figure out, okay, what do I really want? This will help you shape your business. Um, and to this, I am going to add this permission slip, because I know this is something I've gotten um, comments about this from people that I know who run uh, real businesses, who say, "Oh, Patty, you don't have a company. You just made yourself a job," and that's totally okay. It is totally okay to make yourself a job, and in fact, I will push back and say that these real business owners have also made themselves a job. Their job is manager, though, whereas mine is more of a service delivery. So it's totally okay to make yourself a job. And in fact, you're going to have to. It's very, very, very rare that you can get a business to the point where it runs by itself and just shoots money into your bank without you doing anything. Uh, you're going to have a job in there somewhere, somehow. Um, it is also, while we're on this topic, it is also okay to go ahead and trade time for money, something else that we're often told is a bad idea. We are all trading time for money in our business. It's just how are you using that time? And if you're, a lot of these make money while you sleep kind of schemes, yeah, the money might be coming in while you're sleeping, but the work happened at some point. And there's an element of sales and marketing in there. There's an element, in some cases, of product creation. There's an element of customer service and communication and administration. All of that stuff needs to happen. And that is the stuff that is producing the money, even if it happens to land in your bank account while you're asleep. Um, so you are trading time for money, and don't let the people who look down on that use that to tell you that what you're doing is so good. So that's my rant. That's my rant about choosing what you want to do in your business. Did you want to add anything to that, Georgie? I kind of.
No, I think you covered that just beautifully.
All right. The other point I wanted to bring up today is this idea of having to carve off pieces of ourselves in order to fit into someone else's idea of what a business should look like. And this can include, as we talked about in the authenticity, chopping off pieces of our personality, or chopping off some of the skills that we, or the skills or the experience or the insight or the wisdom that we bring. A lot of us who pursue self-employment, small business, do so because we don't want to be stuck in a cubicle doing the same thing all the time. And we have a tendency to develop new skills, to learn new things. I've worked with so many clients who've accumulated so many certifications, so many educational programs, practitioners who have multiple modalities that they are trained in, uh, people who do consulting work that have even multiple degrees, multiple kinds of client experiences, situations that they've worked in, and they've often been advised that you need to specialize, you need to chop off all that other stuff, and you can't do acupuncture and chiropractic and Reiki and energy. Like, you can't do all of those things and aromatherapy. You need to pick one and focus on that. Otherwise, you're going to confuse people. Uh, we're against that. um, this is the idea of being a U-shaped business, is that you bring the whole of you to work with the whole of your client. And when we pursue these multiple modalities, multiple skills, we can bring all of that stuff together in service of helping somebody. Uh, it does take some finessing in the marketing and the messaging and the language to do this effectively. Although, quick tip right now, keep it client centered, and you'll solve your problem. It's about focus on what you do for the client, not on how you do it, and that will solve most of the problems there. But this is part of what makes you unique, and it's part of what makes you valuable. And in fact, um, bringing together uh, multiple, I don't need to call them things, bringing together multiple things, perspective, experience, skills, modality, bringing all of that together can create powerful, new, and innovative kind of services. There's a lot of excitement to be had in doing this. And if you're the kind of person who likes to grow and evolve and expand that way, I'm going to give you permission slip that you do not have to focus on only one skill or modality. Go right ahead, bring more stuff in. Um, Caveat to that, don't use it as an excuse that you're not ready yet. I've also had that too with with clients who are like, one more certification. I have to finish this certification and add it to the pile of the other 20 over there before I'll finally be ready. Don't use it as an excuse, but if you have it already, and you're able to help clients, you're ready to rock and roll, you do not have to focus on only one of those things. Don't chop off your arms because legs are better or something like that.
Very helpful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Whole human beings.
Whole humans. That's right.
Yeah. And along that line, a lot of us get new ideas. We come up with new ways to do things. Um, there may be some other people listening in who get bored and need to do something a little bit different, or to grow, to continue to get some more education, to continue to build skills and to develop and to evolve. And we may find ourselves wanting to change direction slightly, or maybe a lot, or implement a new idea. Um, and that's allowed too. Um, you're allowed to grow and evolve and change your mind. A lot of people, I've worked with so many people who are stuck because they feel like they have to make the right decision, and get everything perfect before they start, because once they start, they're not allowed to change their mind. We come at this from the exact opposite approach, where it's like, before you've started or in the early days, you have a ton of freedom to experiment and to try stuff and to really experience possibilities rather than just looking at them in your head and making a decision. You are allowed to change and grow and evolve. And you know what? People won't actually notice. If you change your mind, you think it's obvious to you, but especially when you're smaller, you don't have a lot of eyes on you. And I'll even go as far as to say, even if you have a lot of eyes on you, uh, you and your business plays a small supporting role in other people's lives. They're not as focused on what you're doing as maybe you would like them to be, or maybe you think that they are, and they don't necessarily remember what you offered last week or last year. Um, so you are allowed to grow and evolve and change your mind and decide that even if you've spent many, many years, months, stacks of money in a direction that no longer fits. It's okay to leave that behind, to carry forward the experience and the growth and the knowledge that you got from it, and to set off on a path that fits you better. Um, Once again, with a caveat that changing what you offer or developing new products or services will not solve a sales and marketing problem. And sometimes people use this stuff to resist doing the hard work of talking to people and learning how to market and sell. So be mindful of that, but don't trap yourself into a business that you no longer like, because you've moved on. This is part of the freedom that you have in having your own business, is you get to change it up.
I think that's so true. And and you will know when it's time to move on to something or bring something else in. And it's actually quite empowering. I just had someone ask me yesterday about this. Hey Georgie, how's that online community thing you were building in that platform? I'm like, oh no, I ditched it. It's done. He's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I never even really got it off the ground. It didn't fit, and it just wasn't right. But when you make decisions that are aligned with who you are, what's going to work for you in your life, your buckets, all of those things, it's very empowering, and then it's not like, oh yeah, it sucked, that thing failed. It's like, yeah, it did, and it just wasn't right for me. Drop the ball. I realized I don't want to do it. All those different things, super good. It was the same thing when I closed my space. I knew that was the right decision for me, and it was interesting the effect, maybe not so easy for other people, but for me, that was absolutely the right choice. So you will know when you're making these decisions and making these changes and moving in different directions. I believe when you're really lined up and you know what really matters to you and who you are, you'll know. And those decisions become easier.
Moving down one more level into more detailed and granular here, looking at your day, how you plan your time, how you create your schedules. If you are to find yourself in say, David Allen's community, the fellow who wrote Getting Things Done, he has a way of managing time that a lot of people is the way, the only way. Um, and for me, I find his way very impossible to implement. I need more space in my days. I need a lighter kind of a planning and organizing structure. And a lot of people struggle with organizing their time and structuring their days. And I'd really, really invite you to look at what works for you. And this is going to involve things like looking at how you do things when you're not trying to do them the way someone else tells you to do them. Because what somebody might judge as that's a really crappy way to organize your life might be working just fine for you. Um, so setting up a schedule that works for you, deciding when you're going to work, a couple of things you might want to consider. Do you do better um, working in short bursts of time, changing activities multiple times a day? Or do you work better when you have long blocks of time to focus on one thing? Um, if you honor how you do your best work, you can set up a schedule that works for you. Personally, I am a long block person. Um, I can't even get focused. I don't know how people can do 15-minute chunks, but for some people that works perfectly well. They do 15 minutes and they like to jump from one task to the next and do things in small increments. If that's you, do it that way. If you need longer blocks, set up your schedule so you get longer blocks. Um, set up your work environment and your schedule to support how you naturally work. And this may take a little bit of experimenting to figure out what works for you. Uh, and how much scheduling do you need? I personally prefer to schedule prefer to get work done from a list. So my day is as open-ended as I can make it, and I have a list, and I like having the freedom to choose what I'm going to do based on a list of things that need to get done. And one of the things that I repeat to myself is that all needs to get done. It doesn't matter where I start. That's what works for me. My husband likes to figure out his calendar. He blocks off time for specific tasks weeks in advance. I take one look at his calendar and I get freaked out. Um, just just looking at it makes me physically recoil because it doesn't work for me, but it works wonderfully for him. And he would get nothing done using my way of doing things. So find a way that works for you. Just because somebody is a guru with a big name in a book does not mean that they have the right answer for everybody. More about that on Friday. Um, but yeah, just write down to how you work, where you work. What environment do you need to be productive? Do you need space? Do you need privacy? Do you need light? Do you need a window? Try to make your workspace work to fit you as well. Um, some bad time to say it. Some people like to work in coffee shops. They get more done when they're out of the house. That might not be a possibility right now, as of the time of recording. But how do you set things up so that you can do your best work and so you're happy at work? You don't have a manager to complain to about you don't like your desk or you don't like your workstation, you don't like how things are positioned. It's like you have a lot of freedom there to set things up in a way that works for you. And I would suggest that maybe the only test that really matters is, does it work for you or not? Anything you want to add?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, test by your results. Are you getting the results you want with the systems and the plans and the way that you're doing things? Because if it's working for you, it's working for you, and only you would know that, and if you like to work in coffee shops, I guess you could work in your car right now. Like literally, I'm like, oh, what you could do? Oh, I could go drive my car to somewhere, sit in front of the parking lot of the coffee shop and work in my car.
They
you know,
have
like
they have like an app or something that has like the sounds of a coffee shop that you can get too.
so, you know, and or maybe all the people that like to work in coffee shops, maybe they could all just go on Zoom, so it would be noisy, and you're just sitting around your table, but there's lots of people around. You have that out external noise kind of stuff. Like I think there's a method to figuring things out always.
Yep.
So it's creative, right? Get your creativity hat on. See what happens.
Exactly. And one kind of final thought too, this also extends to the hours a day that you work. The whole idea of night owls and larks. If you're not a morning person, you don't have to work in the morning. You can work in the evening if that works better for you, especially when we're looking at connecting with clients via the Zoom, via the internet. maybe you want to focus on a different time zone because their work hours align better with you and when you get your work done. When I started programming in the when I was in my 20s, yeah, uh, we're in the 20s now. When I started programming in my 20s, I worked all night. Like I started work about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I quit when the sun came up. I was alone, nobody would bother me, and I just, that time of day, I was super productive, and that's what I did. I'm not like that anymore, but at the time, that was a wonderful work schedule for me. I was on permanent graveyard shift, and it was great. I got more done than if I had tried to do it during the day. So uh, you can be a night owl or a lark, or work in whatever way fits you, fits your life. Um, and your final permission slip of the day is to make a schedule that works for you. And
Exactly. I remember hearing something actually, even about like teenagers, because people always complain that teenagers like to sleep a lot. They always sleep in, they always sleep in. And that actually it's just where they are in their growth stage is they actually need more sleep. So sleeping in is what's required. And then I look at my two kids. I have one that's an early riser, always has been. My son, always. My daughter, not so much. She likes to sleep in, you know? And I think it's what works for you. My daughter also very much likes to stay up later. It's just where she vibes better. My son, not so much, you know. And so I think it's really respecting those natural tendencies that we have, and even in our children, you know. Especially now, I see a lot of the stuff happening on with social media. Do I get my kid up? Do I make him have to have a routine? Maybe, but it's also a great time to see what is their natural sort of rhythm, and how can you adjust and work with it with yours. For me, I'd be like, yeah, sleep in all day because I like to get up early and work. So woohoo, you know. But what works, and just having that respect for other people. Again, I think we talk a lot about this, about that acceptance of yourself and acceptance of others, and realize these are only people's opinions. So life is easier when we take what works and ditch what doesn't, and knowing what actually works and not where it's the distraction and the excuses and, you know, all those kinds of things. Life is just a whole bunch of ands, which I thought was funny. I think if you can see my coffee cup, it has all these and signs on it. So I thought, oh my God, that's hilarious.
wow,
I live in a world of ands.
I like that.
Right? Yeah. And because I also like possibilities. So I really like the and. But yeah, super cool. So what questions, thoughts, you know, and that do we have from our lovely people on our call today, you know? And we had a question. What was the question we were going to ask this morning? I think we were so technologically sidetracked we forgot it. Oh, you had a question yesterday. It was so good. What was it? Oh my gosh, it's going to make me crazy.
Oh, I know what the question was.
Yeah, what's the question?
Is the question, the question was, when you look at your business, do you see any areas where you're doing things because you think you should, or because someone else has said that that's how you need to do it, where you haven't actually consciously chosen?
So share with us, yes you do or no you don't. You don't have to tell us what they are, but it's just a great, oh, that was such a great question that you had yesterday to think about that. It's like, oh yeah, where is that happening for me? So let's go through while they're thinking about typing. Mom, people, wake up, talk to us.
Got a comment. I've heard all the phrases that you put into today's permission slip. Like, it makes me wonder, okay, are you saying that my permission slips are not unique, or is permission slip kind of the opposite of what you've
Yeah, no, I think I think that's the thing with the permission slips, is it's nice to be able to kind of get that different perspective of, oh yeah, I can actually choose, because sometimes I think we forget, you know?
You know what I think it is I think a lot of the people that we work with, and I know us as individual humans doing this business thing, is that we're coloring outside the lines a bit. We're not exactly conformists.
Yeah.
And what happens is you have the vast majority of people prescribing to the same ideas. And it starts to become, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way. And for those of us that are outside of that, we don't hear very many voices that affirm our choices. We hear a lot of voices telling us that we are wrong. And, you know, it's not that I want to take, you know, this position of guru and tell people what they should do and that, yes, their ideas are right. What, what, what I'm wanting to do with these permission slips is just validate the fact that you don't have to do it the way everyone else does it, and whatever you choose for you is fine. And I'm just like, it's like I'm on your side. It's like, it's not just you. And I know that you're up against the whole forces out there that say no, 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 this is a bad idea, you have to do it this other thing, you know. So that's the permission slips. It's just I just want to hear, like, I know that that's what I want to hear. It's okay, Patty, you're a weirdo and you can be a weirdo.
I like this. Yeah, she's like, what I meant was yours is such a refreshing voice. I've heard that you shouldn't create a job for yourself. You shouldn't work on the business. It's not a real business unless it grows and scales. If it's not growing, your business is dying. So she's like, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh my God, if it's not growing, your business is dying, and if it's growing out of control, you're killing the frickin' planet.
Exactly. Oh, I like this one too. So I'm told I should do Facebook Lives every week, but I've been resisting for years. Perhaps I'm not ready. I think it could be a couple things. Maybe you're not ready. And why do you want to do the Facebook Lives? You know, what's the intention behind doing them? Does it serve your business model? Is it something you really want to do? Right? It's one of those things of, are you doing it because everybody says you should, or is it something because you want to, and your people are on Facebook? Does your audience want Facebook Lives? Is it relevant to them? And ultimately, is it something you're comfortable doing? Because I think sometimes people forget there's a lot of different ways to reach and communicate with your people. And what's the way that works really well for you, right? For some people, they are amazing at writing. So they have such a gift of being able to write things. So maybe it's writing, maybe it's video, maybe it's recorded video, maybe it's Facebook Lives. There's so many different ways to reach and speak to people. So I think there's that piece of that too, and what works for you and your personality and the way that your people want you to communicate with them. I think anytime someone says you should, well, according to who? Maybe, and maybe not.
Yeah, it's there's more than one way to get in front of an audience, right? Going live on Facebook is one of many ways to get in front of people who might potentially buy from you, right? And that's really, when you look at something like, oh, you should go on Facebook Live, what the real kind of underlying suggestion in that is you need to get in front of people so that they know that you exist and so that they can hire you. So Facebook Live is one way to do that, right? And as Georgie said, writing is another way. Speaking to a group is another way. Going out networking is another way. Posting stuff on LinkedIn is another way. There are lots and lots of ways. And if Facebook Live is not your thing, if video is not your thing, you can find another way. Find a way that suits you. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Here, let me scroll up a little bit. Facebook. I was told I need to go on Facebook, but Facebook is not where my future clients are looking, right? So I told them I need to be there. No, exactly.
It's another thing to keep in mind too, right? It's like, Where are the people you're looking for? Are they there? And are they there for that reason, right? Are they there to buy stuff, or are they there to communicate with their families, right? It's like, why are they there? How do they hire somebody like you? Where are they expecting
Exactly.
to see you? So it's helpful to look both at, kind of the client's perspective, future client's perspective. Where are they? What do they want to hear? And then your perspective. What do you want to do? What feels great to you? Because the best marketing is marketing you're going to do.
Exactly. Exactly. And this fits so nicely in what we're going to talk about Friday too, about being able to filter advice, like knowing who's telling you this, where is it coming from, and is it relevant to who you are, what your goals are with your business, where your people are. Like there's so many different aspects to these things. So that awareness of knowing, how do I filter the advice that's coming to me? What's the stuff that works, and what's the stuff that maybe I should just be like, not for me right now, could be later. Like, yeah.
Great segue for this comment too. I've been told I challenge authority because I ask why something is done a certain way. Yay, that is a skill that you can use. We will talk about that more on Friday, but that is an excellent skill, because when advice is coming at you from all different directions, including from us, asking why is this being done, and looking for the root reason behind it will be very, very helpful perspective and attribute to have when you're filtering advice. It's like when you figure out why, then you can go, oh, okay, not for me, or there's another way to do it, right? So that could be super useful here. Not so useful when you're expected to be a drone in a cubicle.
Exactly.
And this comment is great for the Facebook Live thing. Something to consider. I'm learning that there's a clear difference between being afraid to put myself out there to do something I know in my heart I want to do, and resisting doing something because it doesn't actually feel right for me. And sometimes we're pretty quick to label this resistance as, oh, I'm just being a fraidy cat. I'm not managing myself well enough. I'm not making myself do stuff. I'm letting my fear control me, kind of thing. And this is a real place of discernment to figure out, okay, is this fear holding me back? Is this a lack of skill holding me back? Or am I being held back because I just don't want to?
Exactly. So good. So good. Okay, we are 4 minutes over time.
We are. Well, we got a late start.
We got a late start. We did. Any other questions, thoughts, comments about being you in your business and creating a U-shaped business?
You're of course very welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here.
And tomorrow we have an inspiring guest on the show. we are going to do the first of our get to know Patty and Georgie interviews. I'm going to interview Georgie's. So if you have questions you want me waiting, okay, I'm going to handle this right now, because I did not do this yesterday. Just give me 1 second. I am going to put in the YouTube channel link into the chat.
And there's quite a few episodes there right now. We still have a few to upload, but there's definitely enough to get you started.
But that ugly link is to the YouTube channel.
Oh, that's your book link. Yes.
I will put the book link into. I'll link to it tomorrow. I don't have the link handy in front of me, but I will share that link. But that ugly YouTube channel address, part of why we want subscribers is so that we get the power to change it to something nice. So anyhow, that's where the YouTube is located. We'll be putting stuff on Facebook, and we'll be here tomorrow to learn all of Georgie's secrets. You can send me questions ahead of time if you want, or you can pop them into the chat when we broadcast this live tomorrow, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work on Facebook, and Georgie's going to get broadcasted on Facebook. Have a fantastic day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.